Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon from Indonesia. And this is Dana from AIBPM. Before we start the course, I would like to ask you to remain muted. And first of all, I would like to welcome you to this third Nusantara Project's online course. And our speaker for today is Professor Majdi Anwar Quttainah from Kuwait University. He'll be giving a course with topic how to do a good research paper. I would also like to inform you that each student is required to fill an attendance form, and I will share the link in the chat room later. And without any further ado, I would like Professor Majdi to take over the session. You'll have a minimum 60 minutes to give the course, and Professor Majdi, the time is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Today we are going to be addressing the issue of how to do a good research. So let me start with you, my presentation. Does the slide show? No?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, okay. Right, okay. As you can see that the purpose of today's mini lecture or lecture is to address the importance of how to do a research paper, and we will try to cover parts of what makes a research interesting and how it should be interesting, and whether or not a team will be successful in conducting a good research paper or not. So basically, we will try to cover the following items. What sort of assignment clarification we need to have in order to start addressing a specific phenomenon, topic, or a trend. And then we will need to speak about the time management that so far it's prevalent. This is what I saw from my students, that somewhat sometimes they do not really have a good time management, and they end up requesting extension, and this is really bad. Because extension is not always appreciated, no matter how the external pressure or environment is, no matter how the student is swamped with a lot of work. So the key to success is to manage time efficiently and effectively. And then how to topic brainstorm, whether or not we will be required to visit the library, locate and select the best sources, survey the sources, topic focus, read the articles, the preliminary thesis, and then we do the outline, draft a paper, and then revise the paper, and then the sources. So let's start by identifying exactly what we are going to be examining is the components, okay, of how to plan and execute a university level research. So why am I saying university? Because sometimes, in some cases, we notice as faculty members that whatever is submitted to us is basically not a university level research. It could be a high school or something lower than university level research. And this could give a different point of view. So why do we need to understand that towards the end of this lecture, we should be able to identify and conceptualize the steps. And those steps are really important. Whether or not most of them team members or group members are collaborating or are working hand in hand together or not, this something relies on the responsibility of the team leader. But also in some instances, I see or I can hear from my students that even the team leader is somehow preoccupied with other stuff that could affect the performance of the whole team. And the purpose of the team leader is not to give commands, is basically to manage and to ensure that the collective work of each member of the group is put into the right spot or put into the right direction in order to start reaping whatever is desired to reap from this collaborative work. And I heard, and I totally disagree with it when I was discussing that some students are not responding to my students, and then I was told that this is part of the challenge. No, I'm sorry to tell you, this is not part of the challenge. This is called disrespectful, because when my students or students generally that are participating in Nusantara, okay, for example, in my semester or in my course, 1/3 of the grade is based on Nusantara. So if my students are not going to be able to communicate with their team members, then we are defeating the purpose of the whole thing, because they will lose 1/3 of their grade. And this is not a challenge. This is called something that we are not interested in cooperating. And cooperating means that we really need to understand how we are able to understand and most importantly, to agree on specific tasks for each member. For example, the pre-writing, the writing, the post-writing, what should be done during the meetings that we are going to be having, and what should we be doing, and so on. So, for example, I noticed, even I will speak about my students, that some of my students do not read the instructions. So you need to have assignment clarification in order to be able to excel in choosing the right topic, okay, an interesting topic that anyone who attempts to read your topic, okay, the first thing that I learned when I was an MBA student and a PhD student or a candidate is how to attract the attentions reader. So basically from the first few paragraphs, or actually from the first paragraph, if I manage to attract the attention, then the reader will continue reading and will start providing feedback, comments, etc. But if the reader starts getting really bored from the first sentence or the first paragraph, then we should understand that the reader will not continue, and this is an issue. So the first and foremost thing is to get the assignment clarification, read whatever you are required to do, and understand every single step in it. I know that sometimes the students, or even not even students, sometimes the professionals also are off mood to keep on reading and get the tiny little details about whatever they are planning to do. And this somehow could distort the overall expected outcome and defeats the purpose of having a collaborative international teamwork. And I noticed that even in, for example, it is stated clearly, and as my colleague, Dr. Bandi mentioned, that basically we are concentrating on topics that are somehow relevant to the Asian continent, or companies or multinational corporations that are operating or having an operation in Asia. I noticed that some of my team, my students, come to me and then start telling me that ex-students from X country, they're saying that the Middle East is not Asia. And I think that there is a big misperception, because the Middle East is a part of Asia. And so I think what we really need to do is to read, and if we do not, or if we have any issue, is we resort to point number 5. We ask questions. If your mentor or the one who's responsible into giving you the right path or direction is unavailable, then you can always consult Google. And if you type in Google, is the Middle East or the Arabian Peninsula part of Asia, and then the answer will directly be, or without any doubt, that it is part of Asia, then this is a misconception. I noticed that some students do not even do their homework. And this is really bad, because it will affect the whole group. After the assignment clarification, we need to have a time management. I noticed, and I understand that there is a time difference. Sometimes it's 5 hours, 4 hours, 7 hours, 6 hours. That is fine, as long as the teammates or team members agree upon a time that is agreeable to each and every single member. Then that should give the time to each one of the team members to start planning. Planning under time constraints is very essential, because based on the priorities that the team members have, they can allocate certain times. And before getting into the PhD program, I used to say that it is impossible for a student to keep on working for 15 or 20 hours. And my experience when I started the PhD program, I noticed that sometimes we end up spending even 21 hours, especially if we need to meet a deadline, because according to our advisors, missing a deadline shows irresponsible behavior. And that could, towards the end of the program, impact us negatively. So assigning due dates and make weekly or daily priority lists, that should be from within each member. I'm not going to say that the team leader is responsible for this assignment or task. However, the overall is to understand that the team leader somewhat responsible into getting all of the acts of the team into the right direction, or to the desired direction. Now, regarding the topic selection, okay, or the topic criteria, of course, there are a vast number of companies that are operating in Asia, whether they are multinational, Asian, foreign. Nevertheless, they are operating within the Asia continent. So what makes a topic interesting? First of all, you need to search for a phenomenon. This phenomenon, okay, is it interesting? Is it valid to study this phenomenon or not? Okay, and if we need to study this phenomenon, okay, what sort of a content do we have? Is it relevant to the course content that we are studying or not? And if it's not relevant to whatever we are studying in the semester, how can we make it relevant? Is there any way to tweak it a little bit? And this will basically lie on the personal and professional experience. not only for the students, and even for the ones who are there to mentor the students. I always give a suggestion that whenever you need to choose a topic, of course, after deciding on the company, is try to tie it to whatever each member is studying. For example, I teach most of my students right now, we are covering the summer semester, and they are signed up with me with this course, Organization Change and Development, or Organization Development and Change. And this is really important because it covers approximately 5 or 6 different topics in one course. Talks about organization behavior, it talks about organization design, it covers strategic management, and it covers other parts of management. So any topic that we can think of in terms of what to cover or what to say is relevant to the course. Nevertheless, I noticed that the students usually are hesitant to ask questions, even when they need to start discussing with their teams. That usually this is the ABC of conducting a good research, okay? To ask who, what, where, when, why. And why is it important that we have an answer to this question? Why isn't interesting to proceed? And how can we make it interesting? What sort of subtopics that we can address or issue in order to ensure that the validity of getting the topic is relevant to our courses that we are attending at the moment. And once we are able to do that, then team members usually are encouraged to start brainstorming. So what sort of brainstorming strategies? I always tell my students that whenever you need help, you can invite your mentors to the meetings. Mentors can usually, or the professors, usually if they have time slots availability, they can always flare the brainstorming and direct the way that students should be thinking, and why should we think this way, why we shouldn't approach that way, what sort of econometrics validity or econometrics difficulties we might run through if we are going to do this or that. So after the brainstorming, you need to ensure that you visit libraries, whether the virtual libraries. I think most universities currently, if they did not have a virtual library or online libraries, they had to implement the digitization specifically because of the pandemic COVID-19 disease. So that will help students into trying to avoiding being exposed to that disease. So I always encourage students to visit libraries. They need to do their share of reading. They need to do their share of what are the best journals, what are the lousy journals that they should avoid, and how they can do that, how they can locate sources. I will be, I'm talking at the moment about Kuwait University. There's almost 24-hour support. So if you have a question, if you have a concern, usually you can address them and they will respond to you in a timely manner. If they do not respond to you in a timely manner, then they will email you whenever it is feasible for them to address your question and are able to answer you. But that doesn't necessarily mean if you do not receive an answer from the librarian or the team that is helping the virtual library, not to ask, for example, your colleagues, not to ask whomever is responsible to mentor you during this interesting and important journey. So libraries are very important. I know that sometimes students would suffice by going to scholar.google.com. Remember, it is relatively important to go and visit the Scholar for Google. But remember that not all or every research papers or empirical papers are available. So you will tend to resort to your library or any other data stream that you can get whatever you are looking for. So I would definitely say that use the search engine of your university library, and then you can expand. Of course, that another important item is the survey sources. I noticed something that I consider a little bit upsetting, that the students, in order to avoid time constraints and in order not to read properly a whole article, what they will do, they will start searching for keywords. Keywords is advisable. I advise everyone to search for a keyword, but the thing, when I start asking my students, okay, did you read this? You have cited this paper, okay, it's written by, for example, Majdi, me. Okay, what did it talk about? Why was it important? What do you think that you can do better? Can you negate the findings? Can you challenge the findings? And the problem is that whether it's whether I was the author or not, students are somehow ignorant about the overall outcome of the paper, and this could give a very bad image for the student. Whenever you cite a paper, you should know the paper inside out, because part of the discussion, or when I had the Viva during my master's degree, my supervisor, I remember, she started asking me on certain papers that I cited and what their studies talked about and what sort of findings did they have and why was their study important, or her or his study important. So if you do not have the answer, then you are somehow not using the right citation. So my advice is, when you start reading, you should know the reference list, or at least the ones that you have chosen and managed to convince your team members that this paper is relevant and it is important, and then you can write an executive summary and you can share it with your teammates. So this is always advisable. And then how can we focus on the topic? Focusing on the topic is dependent or reliant on each member of the group or of the team, because if you are planning to study a trend, a phenomenon, or something you think that is relevant and important, okay, COVID-19 is a phenomenon right now. But the question remains, most of the studies that were implemented or conducted during COVID-19, did they address all of the issues, the problems, the opportunities, the threats on corporations? Or basically they concentrated on how, for example, the COVID-19 affected the global economy? Global economy is a very wide topic, and once you need to have it focused into a continent or into a specific country, then you will need to take other elements into consideration, okay? And gleaning or to glean information during your survey, this is something extremely important, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will make the team members to keep on disagreeing. I remember that we were during the bachelor's degree, and master's, and the PhD degree, information is power. This is what we used to be told. And the more information you have, the more successful you could be. But it is dependent on how intelligent you are into tweaking this information and use it to your benefit. So this is another important issue. Of course, I will keep on telling my students, you have to read. Don't come and ask me about anything that is written, for example, in the syllabus or is explained in the introductory document that you receive from Nusantara upon signing you up. So unless, because English is not your mother tongue and you notice or you find it a little bit difficult to understand the main content, then you may ask. By the end of the day, asking wouldn't harm anyone, but developing a system and making it regular, that you keep on reading, this is something that will expand your horizons and will make it possible for you to keep on collaborating with your existing team members even in the future. For example, until now, even after how many years has it been? Since 2003, since I got my master's degree to date, I'm collaborating with my ex-colleagues, the ones that we used to study together in the United Kingdom. So this is a powerful not only friendship, but this is something that will give you exposure to become a globally known in your field. So reading is part of the challenge that will make you expert in your field. So you need to read. Don't skim through. Don't search for a keyword and just read whatever the ex-author said. Try to read the whole paper. Try to make sense out of it. See whether or not this paper will be able to be, for example, used as a major paper, okay, in order to help you crafting your own research. And how to discover or how to do a preliminary thesis from the thesis statement or the question, because usually when you write your research paper, you have a major question and then you have a sub-questions. But this is not only about the question that will guide the rest of your research and writing. You need to focus the topic and you need to have an assertion. This assertion will lead you to somewhat a good thesis or a good research paper. And besides that, once we are able to reach to that understanding of collaborating properly and being a Samaritan in my field with my co-authors, this will help us into trying to discover whatever we are doing. For example, if we need to discover, this is an example, I copied and pasted it from the internet. So if you need to discovering preliminary thesis, so the topic is on environmental issues connected to global warming. And as you can see that the topics on global warming and that maybe some islands somewhere in the world, okay, will no longer exist because the percentage of the water is increasing because of the melting of the Arctic or whatever. So what usually happens, okay, if this is to take place? Then the focus topic, for example, will be on coal fires, and then the thesis question: how prevalent are coal fires, and what ways do coal fires contribute to the global warming? And then what sort of statement you will be having. Or another one could be technology and consumerism, how you need to focus your topic, okay, the way television impacted the consumerism within the nuclear family from the mid-50s to the 60s, what sort of focus or thesis question you will have, and what sort of a statement. All of this, okay, the statement examples, direct quotes from the authors, okay, will help you on starting your understanding and how to outline your paper. So you need to make list of main points, and then the points you can organize them into patterns that could fit into your paper, and then you make a special note of concepts from different sources that you have used, and then you start drafting an outline. And then moving forward or moving on, you can have the main ideas and details, then you revise it. Of course, you cannot do this if your team members are missing into attending or replying you during this specific period. And remember, right now, Nusantara, we're talking about less than 2 months. And some of my students until now, they have conveyed to me that they never met, and they were unsuccessful into reaching out to their virtual team members. And this is an issue, and it is somewhat a problem. The rest of the slides I will keep, I will share it with you, and if you have any questions, anything, that you can always refer to them. How you should be drafting, I think we are somewhat not on schedule with regards to drafting, because so far I keep on asking my students, I would like you to share with me anything that you wrote. And all what they wrote is basically what they are planning to do. And this is not a drafting. How to integrate sources. You will need always to resort to your teammates, to your mentors. You need to consolidate your ideas. You need to unify them into one theme, into one accepted, okay, format that will fit and will be acceptable to each team members, and will be acceptable also to your professors or mentors. How you should be integrating the sources. Those are examples. You can refer to them once you receive the PowerPoint. I will share it with Nusantara, and then you can receive it, or I can email them. And then you will always need to have a checklist. You need to ensure that every time you meet, you are covering whatever checklist you have decided to do for your following meeting, and whether or not you have met with your deadlines based on your earlier meeting. By so doing, it will give you an updated time frame of where you are and where you should have been, whether you are on time, whether you are tardy, or whether you are ahead of time. And it's always appreciated that you are ahead of time and you are doing everything as per plan. Otherwise, if you are late, then you have a problem, and that problem could affect the whole group, members of the group. And then the sources of your help, of course, you have to go to resort to your professors, librarian, writing tutors, the content tutors, models of successful research papers. All of that you can always resort to. And I will stop until here. And I think we have 10 more minutes. If you have any questions, any concerns, if you are somewhat having feedback to give me, you have any questions, then feel free to ask me. And hopefully I was somehow near to perfection and to conveying how important is collaborating with your teammates in order to make an interesting and a good research topic that you can use for Nusantara or for any other courses. Thank you for your attention, and I am here to ask to answer any question you have. Anyone? Hello?
Okay, everyone, you can leave your question in the chat room, and Professor Majdi Quttainah will answer it.
Okay, it seems that most of them are quite pleased or quite unhappy about my presentation. Regardless, I can always share my slides, and you can always use them as a guideline, and you can improve on them. You can add, you can omit, you can delete, you can dispute an idea, but this is how I usually work with my co-authors. Any questions? Okay, I think we are done. From my side, I'm done. There is nothing else I can add. I will email you my slides, and please feel free to email me if you have any questions or any concerns, or if you disagree with certain parts of the presentation. I'm gonna be more than happy to discuss it with you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Majdi Quttainah. And for your information, we will ask Professor Majdi Quttainah to write 3 questions, and we will put them in the description box of the video on our YouTube channel. And you will need to answer the questions in the comment section later. We will send the link through Google Classroom like what we did yesterday. And I would like to ask you to turn your camera on so that I can take your photos. Okay, now I'm taking the photos of the first page. And now the second page. Okay, we're done. So I will share the attendance link in the chat room at the end of this course. And this is the end of the online course. And I would like to say thank you to all of you on behalf of the AIBPM. I'll see you again on the next course with Professor Majdi Quttainah on 9 September 2021. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you.